Hey everyone, welcome back to NIOBANDS Intros. I am your host, Nehemiah, and today we're going to dive into the powerful world of layers and layer masks in Adobe Photoshop on the iPad Pro. If you're new here, this channel is all about helping beginners master Photoshop on the iPad Pro. And in this tutorial, we'll explain the concept of layers and layer masks. I'll show you how to create and manage layers and demonstrate how to use layer masks for non-destructive editing. That means editing that doesn't actually cause permanent changes to the image that you are editing. Right? So layers and masks are essential for advanced and precise editing. So let's get started. So first, let's open Photoshop on the iPad Pro. You just tap to open it up, and you'll be here at the home screen where you can tap Create New in the bottom left corner, or you can import and open from an existing image. So what I'm going to do actually this time is I'm going to tap Import and Open, and I'm going to select a photo, this Bubble MVP basketball right here. So now we have the image imported, or the canvas is set to the exact dimensions of the image, which is pretty handy. But of course, you can also just create new and select your dimensions and the resolution and, tap create. All right, now layers are like sheets of transparent paper, right? That's stacked on top of one another. And they allow you to separate different elements of your design for easier editing. So to create a new layer, we go over here to the layers tab, or the layers panel, and we just tap the plus sign, and we can add a new layer, we can add an adjustment layer, we can add a new empty group, or we can add new layers from a photo, from a file, from shared libraries in Adobe, from the camera, or from Lightroom photos. But I just want to add a new layer, and we can actually also rename the layer. Right here is the basic layer view, but if we want to see more detail, we tap the second layer icon, and now we can double tap it. I apologize. We can double tap it to rename this layer. So I just want to call this gradient mask. And yeah, so that's how we create new layers, rename those layers for better organization. Now we can also duplicate a layer by swiping. Actually, let's go to the regular view, and we can duplicate this layer by tapping on the plus sign, right? So when you tap it, you'll see a few options. You can hide the layer with the eye icon at the top. You can delete the layer. You can create a mask with the layer. This actually, I'm not sure what that is just yet, but the very bottom is where we have the duplicate layer. But actually the three dots at the very bottom is where we have some additional options, where we can copy the layer, we can lock the layer, rename it. So that's how you rename the layer from here. So we saw before, you double tap the layer when you are in this layer view, you double tap it to rename it. But if you're in the default layer view, you tap the three dots at the bottom and you can rename the layer from there as well. So let's see what else we have here in the layer actions. We can add a clipped adjustment. We can add a layer effect, copy, select all, load as a selection, convert to a smart object, merge down, and merge visible. But I want to just go ahead and delete this layer. So let's go back, and I'm gonna just go ahead and delete that copy. We can also change the order of the layers by dragging them up and down. So I'm just going to tap and hold, and now I can drag this layer to be above, and I can rename this layer, tapping the three dots, and we can change this to background. And I could go ahead and add a color to that background of white, or I can swipe up. You can change the color of the foreground and the background that you're using by just swiping on these little, what do you call them? The little color icons, color pickers or whatnot. And yeah, so that is how you can change the color and change the background color as well. Also, to toggle the layer visibility, you just tap the eye icon here on the right hand side, right? Or like we saw here, if you tap the layer one time, it brings up these options on the left, and you can hide and show the layer like that as well. Now, adding a layer mask. Layer masks are a powerful tool for non-destructive editing. They allow you to hide or reveal parts of a layer without permanently altering the original image. So, to add a layer mask, we want to select the layer and then tap the layer mask icon here on the right hand side, or we can tap the layer and you see that exact same layer mask icon on the left. I'm going to tap it on the left, and a white thumbnail will appear next to the layer thumbnail, right? The white on a layer mask reveals the layer while black conceals it, right? So let's start with some basic masking techniques. I'm gonna start with the brush tool right here. I'm gonna make sure that the size of our brush is nice and large. I'm gonna do about 163. And we're going to change, or we're going to make sure this foreground color is set to black, which it is. And we can now paint on the layer to hide parts of our image in a non-destructive way, which means we're not causing permanent changes, right? And we're basically adding black, because I went outside of the zone, so it just sort of took away everything that I was doing, or I went outside of the canvas. So there we go. And as you can see, as I'm painting black, the black is concealing what is on our image, right? And it is revealing the background color, which is also black, which can be confusing kind of, because right now it looks like we're just painting black over top of the image. But if I change the background color to white, right? Oh, there we go. So if I change the background color to white, you can see how in our layer mask, we're painting with black, but we are revealing the background color, which is white, right? And if we make a mistake, we can just switch the foreground color to white, and we can start bringing back to reveal our image or parts of our image again. And again, this allows us to edit non-destructively, which can be pretty good in case we make mistakes. It's not a permanent thing that's being done. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and delete this layer mask. So for more advanced masking, we can use gradients on the layer mask. And we can do this by creating the layer mask again on this image by tapping the mask icon on the right this time. And if we tap and hold on the paint bucket this time, we will see beneath it the gradient. And so I'm going to tap on the gradient, and we're going to make sure that we're going from black to white. So that means we're going to make the foreground color black and the background color white. And we're going to drag across the layer mask to create a smooth transition, right? And we can also make selections and fill them in with black or white on this layer for precise masking edits. But yeah, so this makes it so that we have a black, which reveals what's going on beneath the image, transition into the white, which conceals what's going on beneath the image. And that's basically a way to make a color to transparent gradient effect. So if I want to change this back to the paint bucket, go to the background layer and tap to make the background layer black. Now we have more of a shadow sort of effect happening, going, or more shaded effect happening going from left to right. And this is actually something that I was trying to figure out just the other day, because the last time I did this gradient effect going from black to transparent, I did it on Photoshop on the desktop, and it's a totally different setup and a totally different way of working on the desktop versus the iPad version of Photoshop. So I'm going to show you real quick what I was doing, and it involved this thumbnail. So what I did was I just created a gradient over top of my image, right? So that's the gradient from black to this sort of light blue, right? And I just made the opacity here is set to 73% for this gradient, just so I can, see what's going on beneath it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this gradient and show you basically what I was trying to do, in a different kind of way. So I'm going to go to the image layer. This layer right here is that background screenshot image, and I'm going to add a gradient mask to that with the background color being black. So I'm going to make the background color black because I was trying to go from a black gradient to a transparent gradient. And when you tap and hold the paint bucket tool, go to the gradient, we have it set as black as the foreground, white as the background, but I wanted black to be the foreground and I wanted transparent to be the background. I wanted there to be no color on the background. But when you go to the background color, you have the color wheel, you have the hex code, you have 3 dots where you can change it to HSB sliders. There's no option for transparency. RGB sliders, no option for transparency. CMYK sliders, again, no option for transparency. Grayscale and lab sliders. But none of these have an option for transparency, right? And that is because the way in which you do it is with gradient masks. So we have the black to white. The black is going to reveal the background of, it's going to reveal the black background. So now we want to go to our image layer where we have the gradient, where we have the mask, the layer mask on our image. And with the gradient tool, we're going to draw our line from left to right so that, bam, we've got the gradient going from dark to transparent. Now I also, let me undo that. I also want to change my image a bit, or I wanted to move it over slightly. So it looks like, okay, we're pointing to object selection. And now I'm gonna hit done. We're going to slide right on back. And using the gradient with the mask, we now have the effect that I was going for in terms of making a transition from a color to transparent, because there is no way to make that background color transparent. You have to do it with the gradient mask. And I can change the background color to white. Let's go ahead and change back to the paint bucket, background, bam. And now we have the background set to white. And this is pretty much what the thumbnail is going to look like, you know, but I still like the original. I mean, the original one that I did, I like it, but it's like, you know, that's not what I was trying to do. And when it comes to being a, you know, Photoshop person, right, or a Photoshop designer, you have to design with intention, and you have to figure out how to do exactly what you're trying to do. You know, sometimes you have certain workarounds, but no, you got to figure out how to do exactly what you're trying to do, because there is a way to make it happen. Now, let's put these techniques to use in a simple project this time, right? So I'm gonna go back to the home page, and I'm gonna this time hit create new, and I'm gonna roll with a custom size that I used before, 1280 by 720. Once again, you can adjust the width, the height, whatever units you want to use, pixels, inches, centimeters, millimeters, points, as well as adjust the resolution, the orientation, make it portrait if you want to, or landscape. I'm gonna keep it as landscape. And we can make the default background be transparent, be white or black. And I'm gonna just keep it as white and create. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to blend two images together seamlessly, right? And we're going to use a couple of techniques from the previous video as well that talked about how to use the lasso tool, the object selection tool, and the quick selection tool. But first, let's go ahead and import an image by tapping the import image icon, and I'm gonna go to photos, and I'm gonna select this beach setting background that I have here. And I actually generated this image with ChatGPT, and we're now going to create a new layer. Tap the plus icon, and I'm gonna add this new layer from a photo, and I'm gonna go ahead and select one of these workout exercise photos, and let's roll with this one. This is like a groin hip flexor stretch. I'll leave a link in the description where you can actually sign up to get 4 weeks of hip flexor exercises sent directly to your inbox 3 days a week, 3 different exercises or stretches per day, and it'll really help get you right. It'll help eliminate back pain, hip pain, and just keep you flexible and keep you feeling good. So let's go ahead and hit done, because we don't really need to adjust the size. And yeah, so the first thing is we want to blend this top image that includes a subject in a different environment with the background image that is a totally different setting, right? And first, we want to create a layer mask with our subject layer. So we have our subject layer selected. We're going to select the layer mask. And if we went to our brush, we want to start revealing, we want to start painting with black to start revealing some of the background. And it's just as simple as, you know, going ahead and drawing it in like so, you know, to crop out our subject. And again, this is all non-destructive. So I'm not actually deleting, I'm not actually removing pieces of the image, right, I'm just drawing on a layer mask. But this is not the way in which, even though you could, make the brush smaller, zoom in, pinch to zoom in, and, start trying to get around and around and around. It's like, no, but this is not the way that, designers work. There's a better, more efficient way to do this. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and delete that, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to use a technique that we discussed in a previous video. We're going to first select our subject. So I'm going to tap and hold our selection tools and bring up the object selection. I'm going to draw a box around our subject. And first, let's see how good of a job object selection does to select our guy. Now, it did all right, but we have a little bit of adjusting that needs to be done, right? So let's go down here. First, let's tap and hold, and we're gonna do the quick selection. Size 28 should be good. And I'm gonna get down inside of here, and we're going to make sure we are subtracting. So we have the add up top, the subtract down below, and I wanna begin subtracting some of this, right? And we actually did a little bit too much. So now I wanna bring it back, start adding a little bit more back. Let me undo that. And I just you tap on the screen, you tap with 2 fingers on the screen to undo, and you tap 3 fingers on the screen to redo as well. Just a quick little tip there. So you don't have to always go up top and hit the undo, redo. You can just tap on the screen in that way. And I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller. Let's see, about 14. I'm gonna get back in here. See if we can't get this to be better. Let's see, that's sort of better, right? There we go, that's good, that's good, that's good. Now let's fix this part up here. We wanna subtract up here as well. Bam, bam. Now, this is good, but let's refine our edge a little bit. So we tap refine edge in the bottom menu, and the view mode right now is the marching ants. So if you didn't know, that's what it's called when we have the selection moving around, the edge like marching ants, basically, right? And we can, again, do some refinements with the smoothness of it and the feathering as well. I don't really want to adjust the feathering too much, but the smoothness is good. And instead of the marching ants, I want to see how this looks as a bit of a cropped out image. So we're going to tap on overlay. So now I can see what our image looks like, in a sort of cropped out kind of way. And I like it. And let's see, this shift edge, I know there's a way in which shift edge makes changes. We just haven't gotten there yet, but we'll deal with that in a different video. But from here, we've got a more precise crop out of our subject, and we can invert the selection if we want to, right? If I wanted to remove the subject from the image instead of remove the background from the image, we can invert this selection, but I don't want to do that. But right here at the bottom where we have output as, we can output it as a selection, or we can output it as a layer mask. We can output it as a new layer, right? Which will crop out the subject and put it on a new layer. Or we can output it as a new layer with mask, and that's what I want to do. That's why I just went ahead and deleted the mask on this layer, because we are going to output this as a new layer with a mask, and it's basically going to hide this layer and create a new layer with a mask, and just look and see what happens. So yeah, before, for some reason, the done was grayed out. I was like, what's going on? But now we have the ability to hit done, right? And yeah, if done is grayed out, then Photoshop has frozen and you gotta restart and whatnot. But we've got it back. We've got our subject cropped out with the overlay so we can see how we did. And we have the output set as new layer with mask. And when we hit done, now the Photoshop has automatically hidden our original image, and we've created a new layer with our image and a mask on that image, cropping out our subject so we can see what some of these blending options look like. And I don't really like any of them because it's making it look transparent, so let's not do any of that. What I did last time was we added a clip adjustment. So the clip adjustment will actually make the changes. If I add a blend mode to this clip adjustment, it's not going to make it transparent. It's going to keep it, you know what I mean? Keep the image intact, basically. I don't know how else to describe it. It's sort of just, you know what I mean, keeps the image there. And we can see what some of these different, I think I liked soft light. Overlay is cool too, but soft light was good. So I'm gonna just keep it on soft light. And that's how, you know, you can make these sort of changes like that with a clipped adjustment. And now I can go to the scale and rotate. If I want to push my guy back a bit, right? Make him a bit smaller. You know, the perspective isn't perfect. However, we've pretty much achieved placing our subject in a different kind of background. And yeah, it looks as though my guy is doing his stretching workout on a beautiful, serene beach. That is achieved with understanding how layers work, understanding how masks work as well, but also going back to our previous lesson of understanding how the smart selection tools such as object selection and quick selection work, to then go to our refine edge and do the whole masking part automatically, all at once. But it's good to know how to manually create the layer masks as well, you know? Just so as a designer, you know, I look at it also as sort of like being an engineer, right? Being a photo engineer, that's pretty much what this is, right? There's multiple ways to do just about everything, and you really want to just continue looking for the smartest, most efficient, quickest way to get things done, especially if you're working with clients. You don't want to be sitting in a room with a client and, you know, taking forever to do something that can be done much faster. So that's it for today's tutorial. You know, we've covered the basics of layers and layer masks, how to create and manage layers, and how to use layer masks for non-destructive editing in Photoshop on the iPad Pro. So remember, layers and masks are essential for advanced and precise editing. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, comment below with any questions or suggestions for future tutorials, and don't forget to subscribe to NIOBANDS Intros for more Photoshop tips. And in case you were wondering, NIOBANDS stands for New Ideas Opening. That's why the logo is a cracked egg. The cracked egg to me represents a new idea, a new life, right? And the bands, of course, you know what I mean, is bands around cash. It's really not complicated. New ideas opening bands of cash, because we're learning, we're getting better, we're building our skills that can be used to trade, right? That can be used to teach, that can be used with clients, right? And we're all learning together. We're all, you know, in a mindset of using these skills to make money in some sort of way, shape, or form. So keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next video.